Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, and in this lecture I'll be creating generating text in a Blazor WASM or WASM project, WebAssembly project using OpenAI API. So I have opened the Visual Studio 2022 already, and I will click on create a new project, and instead I will go back and continue without project, continue without code, and click on tools and command line. I will use the developer command prompt, or you can use the developer PowerShell also to create the Blazor WASM project using the command prompt or PowerShell. So this is the command .NET new Blazor WASM. This is the output directory, will be known as OpenAI Blazor app. Okay, so it will create the template project for me, and this will be on this path. Okay, so we will come back. This is the path, and I will load the OpenAI Blazor app.cs project C# project file. So I will open it. Now this is my terminal window created, or command prompt created OpenAI Blazor app. Alright, so this is the pages as usual: homes, weather, and counter.razor pages. At the moment, if I run this application, it will show you that the typical counter and the weather pages. Okay, so it is the typical hello world in the home page, and counter, click me, you can count, increment the counter, and weather page. That is all we know about. Okay, so now we'll move and rebuild this Blazor WASM project from grounds up, so that it gives us a nice Blazor UI where you can write your prompts and it will give you response using the OpenAI API key. Okay, so I will show you how I got the OpenAI API key. Now, before running in details as to how to build the final application from scratch, it will be a good idea to run this finished application, and this will how it will look like. And you can enter your prompt, say, just the simplest of questions on Blazor: what is Blazor? Okay, and enter your prompt and generate the response. So it will generate a response, something: Blazor is an open source web framework developed by Microsoft that allows developers to build interactive, and you can read what else has been written. And then if you want to test it further, what is the capital of say for a very uncommon country, Somali, the capital of Somalia is Mogadishu. All right, so now let's move over to the next part, which is how to acquire the OpenAI API key. So I've gone to the platform.openai.com/API keys, which is the OpenAI platform API keys dashboard. So I log in, and I usually log in with my Google account. Okay, so that way I don't have to register with a separate account with OpenAI platform. Now I have already created a couple of keys earlier, which I can use, or I can use a new secret key, but I am happy to use one of these two. So this secret key will not be shown to the outside public. So once you generate a new key, you can click on new secret key. You can always give it a name and a default project, and you can create a secret key, but you must copy it straight away, because once you close that window without copying it, then it will never be recovered, and you have to either delete or use another key. Okay, so click on cancel, and I will use one of these two keys, or probably this one, but I could use this one also. Okay, So last used was test key 17 February. Okay, that's fine. I can use any of these key. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I will come back to my project, and there's my OpenAPI Blazor project. So the next step is to install HttpClient and add services. As the application will need to make HTTP requests to the OpenAI API, we'll have to ensure that an HTTP client is set up in our program.cs class or program file. So I'll have to rewrite or write it over with the clipboard code, and then we can explain. We can have an explanation. So I will be needing this Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.components.WebAssembly.hosting, and this is still not there. So I have to create a services class, which will come in the next step. And we'll add this line: register HTTP client for API requests. Builder.services.add scope client. Base address is builder.host.environment.base address. Okay, and then we'll be registering the OpenAI service, which I will be creating soon in the next step. Please hang on for a minute, and then I will issue this command: build.run asynchronously. So in a nutshell, we'll try to again go through what is the content of this main method, which is the starting point of this application. So this method create default args, it sets up the default configuration, app settings.json if available, and configures the dependency injection, and it also handles the environment settings like development or production. And then here we are adding the root components. Okay, this registers the main root component app.razor in the DOM, add the element with id equals app, and in your index.html for Blazor WASM, you'll see divide equals app. So let's see. So this is the index.html within the www root, and you can find divide equals app. All right. And again, we are registering the HTTP client for API requests. And this part, builder.host.environment.base address gives the base URL where the Blazor app is hosted. For example, if your Blazor app is hosted at https://example.com, then the base address will be https://example.com. If running locally, base address could be https://localhost port 5001 if it is used. Okay, and why you are using add scope? Because add scope means that each user gets their own instance of the HTTP client throughout the session. It is better than adding singleton, which keeps a single instance for all users. All right. Next, we'll create the API service to call OpenAPI. So accordingly, we'll create a services folder, add new folder, call it services, and I'll create a class. OpenAI services. Okay, and then copied over this code from my clipboard, and here you have to use or add your OpenAPI key, which I just showed you how to generate and use. You have to fill it up with your own API key, which will be different from mine. Okay, and this is the dependency injection. You are injecting the HTTP client in OpenAI service, and then this is the main method, generate task async, and you are giving it a prompt. You are entering as an argument the prompt, which is a string, and it will run asynchronously on task string of task string type, and this is the main API endpoint for text completion, either GPT-3 or GPT-4. And here the model, this text DaVinci 003 is not okay. I will now change it with GPT-3 or GPT-4 model. So I have rewritten that generate text async method, and it is using the model GPT 3.5 Turbo. Okay, because I found that the earlier DaVinci model is a legacy, it doesn't work. Okay, now I'm giving it messages variable, which is a new array of message with the role system and content. You are a helpful assistant, and another role as a user role. Content is prompt. Okay, and let's try to understand the next piece of code, which are very important. Now here we are creating a request variable, which is nothing but a HTTP request message of post type. HTTP method dot post method we are using, and this is the URI. Okay, if this is very important, https ://api.openai.com/version1/chat/completions. If there is any typo, this will not work. And then we are writing the headers authorization header for an HTTP request with a, this line of code: new system.net.http.headers.authentication header value is bearer. Okay, API key. Now let's understand this line. Now this line is setting the authorization header for the HTTP request to include API key using bearer token authentication. And what is request.headers.authorization? The request.headers.authorization is an HTTP request message object used to send an HTTP request, and headers.authorization is a property that sets the authorization HTTP header, and this header tells the API who is making the request or the authentication. And this authentication header value with the two arguments bearer and API key. Bearer, this means that bearer token authentication is a way to secure API request, which is being resorted over here, and bearer means the request includes a token that grants access, and the API server checks if the token is valid, and if so, it processes the request. Okay, and then the other few lines are quite typical, stereotyped. Response is await HttpClient that send asynchronously send this request, send async request. If the request is a success, if the response is a success status code in 200s, then it will create a JSON variable. It will assign and read from JSON async the JSON element. Okay, so await response dot content dot read from JSON async the JSON element, which represents a specific JSON value within a JSON document, and it returns this property JSON.get property choices, that is the first element, dot get property message dot get property content dot get to string, that is the this is get property message. Now this line is also important to understand what it is, so let's break it down. Now basically this line extracts the generated text response from the JSON returned by the OpenAI API. So what is this JSON.get property? JSON is the JSON response object received from the OpenAI's API, and get property choices. Get property choices extracts the choices array from the response. Okay, and choices is an array that contains AI generated responses, and 0 is the choices is an array. Normally the returned response from the OpenAI API is an array, and the 0th element gets the first response. So APIs like OpenAI can return multiple choices, but we only take the first element, that is at index 0. And each choice has a message object. Okay, and .get property message extracts this message object. So, and what is the get property content? The message object contains the content, which is the actual text generated by the OpenAI. So, .get property content extracts, like if the content is hello, how can I assist you today? So it will extract that content. And then finally get string, convert the content value from JSON format to C# string. Now with this piece of sample code taken from the ChatGPT, this will be clear what I was talking about. This is a choices array. This is array notation, and it has got message within this choices array, and within that message you have got the content. Okay, so choices, then message, then content, all embedded within the choices array. All right. There is one final step in the jigsaw puzzle, and that will be to create the Blazor user interface for interaction, Blazor UI for interaction. So what we will do, instead of creating another component in the pages folder, we'll make use of this home page and write it over with the actual contents that I would like to be stuck on the home page. Okay, so I'll just paste this. Right here it needs to be full namespace, so OpenAI Blazor app dot services dot OpenAI service. Just save this part. Okay, now if I put my Blazor API key, OpenAI services API key, it will be good to run. Okay, so we'll do that and run this application now. Now finally, after putting the OpenAPI key in this OpenAI services, and I run this application, and I'm greeted with this familiar OpenAI Blazor app, Blazor WASM page. And what is the result of 25 by 25? Enter your prompt. I enter my prompt. You can test with any other prompt and generate, and the response is 25 by 25 is 625. So you can write another question. Say, how good is Blazor as an UI? Let's see the answer. It will be interesting to see. Blazor is known for its strength as a UI framework, and particularly for its ability to create interactive and dynamic user interface using C# and reserve syntax, and it allows, and it goes to a few more lines. So we have been able to successfully generate text using a Blazor WASM app, WebAssembly app, and using the OpenAI API key that I got free of cost. Okay, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to this channel and share with your friends, and hit the notification bell icon. Thank you very much.